Hey everybody, Brendan Hall, content producer here at Huddle. Really thrilled to be introducing this next segment. For those of you who watch Monday night, we are bringing a brand new camera, revolutionary camera even, to market, and really excited to tell you a little bit more about it here in this next panel. As Huddle continues to develop and create new technology, coaches remain at the center of the work we do. And football's where we started, where Phil continue to deliver game-changing solutions for the coaches who helped us become who we are today. And this outdoor focus camera, it was built for you guys, the football coaches. This camera automatically records clips and uploads your game film, integrates this Huddle sideline. It's an all-in-one automatic camera that simplifies your pre-game, in-game, and post-game video routine. But that's a fun sales pitch, right? We're going to take you through the ins and outs of this new camera with some of the guys who helped us, who were really instrumental in testing this out over the last year. I'm going to turn this over to our product manager, Austin Nichols, who's also going to introduce these two awesome people. We're going to have some fun, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that, Brendan. Hey, y'all, I'm Austin Nichols. I'm a product manager here at Huddle. I've been working on our football products for 4 or 5 years now. Been talking to Nolan about our football products for 4 or 5 years now. And I'm excited to be working on Huddle Focus for our football coaches. We got Nolan, as I said, here from Blue Springs, and then Jonathan from Lake Travis. Why don't you guys do some quick intros in terms of your role on the team, kind of your quick history with Huddle as well. Nolan, why don't you go first?
Yeah. Okay. My name is Nolan Hochgrebe. I'm at Blue Springs High School, which is Blue Springs, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City. I'm coaching and getting ready to go in about my 18th year coaching here. Currently coach the running backs and basically have kind of the title of technology coordinator and that type of stuff. So
you might say you're the Huddle guy, right?
Yeah, that's the common referred name.
Nice. How about you, Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Coates. I coach football, basketball, and I'm a math teacher here at Lake Travis High School, just outside of Austin, suburb of just a little bit outside of Austin. I've been here 15 years. And like Nolan, I coach running backs, and I'm the Huddle guy. Apparently, when I got hired, I was the only one that could operate a computer. And so I've had that title pretty much ever since. So
awesome. And we've obviously come a long way in that time, both in the technology around us and hopefully Huddle along the way for you guys. I want to start with a question to just kind of set the stage and make sure we're all thinking about this right. Talk to me about, what game day capture looks like for you today, right? What goes into it? What are the some of the pain points that you deal with today with your capture workflows? How much time does your staff devote to it, right? Those types of questions and workflows.
So I think with us, the way we look at it is in an away game, we usually try to get there about 5 o'clock, and our goal is to be done setting up all the technology by 6. So usually if we can get it done between 30 and 45 minutes, we feel really good. That gives us kind of 15 minutes to troubleshoot if we have any issues with any of the stuff we're doing. Home game's a little bit differently, obviously. I mean, we're actually blessed with a really, really nice facility in terms of our press box is part of our building. So it's just kind of an extension of the hallways of our school. So I'm actually working out of the press box right now as we speak. So we have a little bit more of an ability to not have to take things down and set things up on a week-to-week basis. So, but I'd say 30 to 45 minutes, setting up our sideline camera upstairs on the press box, hooking that up with sideline, setting our end zone feed up, setting all those things to run up to our TVs down on the sideline. It's kind of the gist of what we try to do each week.
Nice.
Okay. For us, it's pretty much a 5-man operation, whether we're at home or on the road. We have 2 end zone cameras, which one coach mans each one. And then we film 2 cameras up in the press box. So we have a wide view and a tight view, and we have one coach responsible for each one of those. And then we have one coach that operates an iPad that just does the basic data entry. And then I'm available to rotate around just to see if anybody needs help or anything like that. It typically takes about 30 minutes just to get, the pole cameras up and running and everything hooked up and troubleshooting. We don't have Huddle sideline. We're not allowed to have that. So that's, something we don't have to set up. It'd be nice if we could. But it's a 5-man operation. Middle school coaches are the ones that man that. And we're fortunate that we do have those resources. Not a lot of schools have that many people involved in their football program. And we have 17 high school coaches, I think, and then we have 15 at the middle school level that are involved in scouting, game day, in a part of the whole operation.
Nice. Yeah. Texas Rules Committee, if you're listening, let's get in-game live review going down there.
Yes.
Nice. You kind of both hit on that. You have a team around you that, helps run the show each week, whether that's coaches or student managers. What goes into the process for you as the Hudl guys into kind of training them? Is there turnover that you guys experience where you lose a student manager or a coaching staff? You kind of have to retrain someone how exactly you want them to film. Talk to me a little bit about that.
You want to go, Coach?
Yeah, I'll go first. We have actually, for our sub-varsity and our practice stuff, we have a team of about 12 managers, typically females that want to be a part of the football program in one way or another. And we have to train those just about every year because we have 4 or 5 turnover and 4 or 5 new every year. And that's a huge process. I mean, we've got to show them what angle we're looking to get at each filming position. We have to teach them how to, fly a drone or how to, set the camera up. And we have to coach them we have to take the film that we get from that and then coach them on how to get a little bit better, because that practice is obviously a huge deal. Sub-varsity games, they are responsible for filming that as well. And if you've been around a high school kid, they're on their phone, they're not paying attention. We've missed the opening kickoff. We don't film the scoreboard, have no idea what the score is. We've done that over the last, 7 or 8 years because these girls can't pay attention long enough. In terms of the high school or the varsity level, that's a constant coaching deal. I mean, we use our tight angle quite a bit for obviously highlight videos, and then also like kids' personal highlight videos. But then we also produce a video that goes on YouTube and gets played, throughout the school. And then our Breakfast with Champions, it's on the following game day. And so the zoom of that is really important. The wide, we have to constantly coach that because we're trying to get, the all 22, and that requires a zoom in, zoom out, every play. And that's something that requires a real focus. And so we have to have a good guy there. And then the end zone cameras, which are what our lines like to use and watch the film through, are really, really important because you don't want to be over, or too focused out or too zoomed in and not following the ball. Those are things that are really important to us. And those are things that when we watch the game as a staff on Saturdays, I make notes on, and then I give feedback to the guys involved.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot goes into that in that operation, essentially is what I'm hearing, which I think is pretty common for a lot of schools. Jonathan, talk to me about, the vision of Hudl Focus and what we've been working on building for the last 2 years for football coaches and, are getting ready to launch this fall. Is that smart camera that you set up once, you install it, and then it creates that wide angle of video, sideline to sideline, 5 yards behind the safety, 5 yards behind the quarterback, give or take, and then it follows the action. If you had that to rely on every week, where would you reinvest that time with your staff? What would that mean to you in terms of kind of your weekly operations and preparation and capture and all of that?
Well, that would be one less coach that has to man that camera. That means it's more time for me that I don't have to charge batteries. I don't have to reformat SD cards. I don't have to make sure everything's packed and the game on time. And then we can be sure that we are getting all the players. The biggest deal for us is, for the longest time, and this is probably a lot of high schools out there, they film with that wide, tight stack where they're stacked on top of each other. and you have one wide that's so zoomed out that you see, I mean, the whole field, and you can't really focus in on a guy. And then you have the tight, which follows the ball. Well, as you follow the ball, you're going to lose some video, and they're going to be, and that's the problem that we dealt with. We had guys that were no longer on the video in our wide shot because the ball moved and the camera wasn't positioned correctly. And that was a huge thing for us. That's what caused us to have to split the wide and tight into 2 separate cameras in order for us to get that. And the Hudl focus has allowed us to get that shot. And then now we can reinvest the manpower doing, something else on the sideline or whatever. I mean, we haven't, just not really sure just yet where we're going to invest that manpower. Scouting would probably be the obvious.
Yeah. Good problem to have, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
An extra
Yeah.
body. Nolan, what about you? You want to talk about anything related to?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the manpower kind of parallels what Coach was talking about. I think on our end, like I said, if we talk about what our early out coaches, we got 4 of them, and those are the guys that leave early, leave ahead of the buses, and those are the guys that, like Coach, they're in charge of setting all this up. But then, yeah, we turn over all of the operation during the game to a group of students that we usually call our video crew, because we have a group of managers, and they're kind of more associated with the trainers, and they're on the sideline with water and the training aspect. So we try to differentiate by referring to our students as video crew, and we go through again an extensive process of training. We're kind of in the process right now of getting students lined up for next year, and then hopefully allow the older ones to train the younger ones. We have some different things we have on a website, and Brendan and I have actually talked a whole lot about this in earlier meetings and stuff about this process. But again, same type, like this coach is saying, it's a process, and we'll get out there and think everything's good, and then the next thing we know, we miss the opening kickoff of the first game of the year or something like that. So but we actually have the opposite problem, trying to teach our student managers about like how wide we want, because what we were doing prior to this year with having Hudl sideline is we were filming with an iPad, simply because it was taking away one wireless connection that we were struggling with. And so the iPad was kind of just doing 2 things for us at once, which had its own issues in terms of the glares and the things because of the lens not being as good. But instead of having a wide and a tight, we would just have the wide from the sideline and then rely on our end zone for our tight. And so what we would run into is, as much as we thought we had taught our managers about what a wide looks like, here's the safety, here's the running back, get 5 yards wider than that, we get out the first couple of weeks and our safeties coach wouldn't be able to watch his safeties most of the game because they were getting cut out. And so, and again, it's just a training process. I mean, it goes back to us not doing a good enough job. I think we did such a good job that we didn't see, 3 blocks down the road because we weren't too wide, which seems to always be the problem. We were the opposite because we coached up one side of it too well. We had issues with the other. So kind of going back is with that focus camera, it just takes away the training. It takes away that little element that maybe you thought you were prepared for, and then you get out there, and it really takes us usually about 3 to 4 weeks to work those kinks off. We do the same thing. We watch film, and coaches shoot me text over the weekend, and they're like, "Hey, coach, can you talk to the video crew about zooming out so I can make sure I can see my safeties?" And so, we go back and we actually brought them into our film meetings and stuff just so they can see it. And I think it's just trying to teach these kids how to do it. But if you add in an AI element where that's one less thing you have to do. To us, we feel it's a lot easier to show them what we need from the end zone view than it is from the sideline. And I'm not sure why that is, but we just, again, with screenshots and stuff, we just try to prepare them that way. They film for us in camp, so they get all of that kind of done. But definitely the adding the Hudl focus in there frees up some workers for us to do other things. And then obviously takes that element that we thought we weren't going to have an issue with that we do, and helps us just see some of those plays. I mean, we've lost touchdowns. We've had to reach out to other coaches and say, "Hey, would you mind shooting us your film? We lost this touch out. This kid would love to have this on his highlight film and his recruiting film and stuff." So
Yeah, so much mental energy that goes into all of that, and time and training and practice. And one of the things that I geek out as, a person working on this project is, you both talked about this concept of training your filmers and having to do that kind of over time. And the really cool thing about, machine learning and artificial intelligence and all the brains that power the focus camera is that it gets the benefit of every single football game that's captured on a focus camera each week across the country. And that makes that even better. Thousands of touchdowns, thousands of kickoffs, et cetera. And it's going to get better over time. So really, really great examples, guys. I want to switch gears here a little bit. So, you both have these really awesome, whether they're video clubs or video crew or kind of student managers or even coaches in some situations. If we free up our coaches, they can go coach more, right? But if we free up the video crew with not having to capture, games each week, one of the things that I've seen a lot of schools do is kind of reinvest that into the broadcasting club or, the live streaming club. And that's one of the big values for Hudl Focus, right? Is that you can power live streams out to fans, out to, grandparents, even recruiters if they're not there. Nolan, I know you're a big live streaming guy at Blue Springs. So I want to talk a little bit about the value that Focus has provided, both indoor sports like basketball, et cetera, but also I know you guys used it for football this fall during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think we started with the indoor focus, I think officially last year. And so our basketball and volleyball coaches were starting to play with it a little bit. And I think they did a little bit of live streaming to their own YouTube channels and just kind of played with that a little bit. I hadn't invested much time in it. And then the pandemic rolled around and we spent all summer trying to figure out, first of all, if we were going to play football and then what that was going to look like on not just a Friday night, but we started trying to figure out what's that going to look like with practice, what's that going to look like with underclassmen games. And so that's kind of got us into, luckily we had the focus outdoors and we started messing with that. And I feel like what we've been able to accomplish from the beginning of August through this week with our basketball teams finishing up, we've built an entire Blue Springs High School activities YouTube channel. We're sending everything to the same place so that everybody knows where to look for these films. We're changing schedules to make sure our underclass kids are getting live streamed. Our athletic director, Coach Hull, has done a great job at moving gyms and field space around and stuff and putting teams in a place where they can do that. And so this fall, again, just trying to play with the YouTube and not quite sure how we hadn't really gotten invested in it. And obviously it kind of pushed us into that. But I mean, we went from the beginning of the season, just kind of hitting record and shooting it out to I think we sent it out to the volleyball channel one time just because they had a YouTube channel we could connect to the point where we, like I said, we built a Blue Springs Activities YouTube channel. And then we really kind of took it a step further. And the one thing that the indoor camera doesn't have that we've actually had a lot of conversations about, I think, Austin, is there's that audio port on the outdoor camera. And so the first couple times we were doing it, we were having some issues with music causing us to get copyright infringements on YouTube. And I mean, there's a process we can get around that, but it was some issues. I think the last 2 or 3 home games that we streamed, we came up with this idea to actually run an audio cable from the camera into our radio booth. And we have a community guy that does our radio broadcast for us. And so we were able to overlay his radio broadcast through, I think it was like 10:30 a.m. over our live stream and push that out through YouTube. Yeah. And that was something we really, really were, I mean, it was awesome. And so that kind of led us to begin to start thinking, well, where can we take this? And kind of like you led into, bringing kids in to do freshman games for, and those types of things. And all of this stuff is live streaming through YouTube. So not only are you getting these young kids, their parents can see them play football or basketball or whatever, but the parents of the broadcasting students are getting to get on and listen to their kid broadcast or commentate on a game going out on the field as well. And so it's just kind of brought that whole different dimension to what we've been doing as an educational institution.
Yeah, that's an awesome example. We did not plan this, to be clear, but I actually used that clip from the Rockhurst game in some training I did internally. I was going to share it real quick. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
is what Nolan's talking about.
Stretch the field a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. Run a little. It's second down and 17. Going to do it again. Throw to the other side, and the pass is going to be caught along the far side. And if it's complete, it's good for a first down. And it is inside the 45 to the 43-yard line of Rockhurst.
Roy can go up and get him. I told him in the meeting on Wednesday, I said, you could, if you have your head screwed on right, be the best receiver in Kansas.
Best receiver in Kansas City. All right, let me pause this so it's not talking at me still. So
Coach Crone Coach Crone is that sucker bleeds purple and gold. I promise you that.
I love it. I love the call.
But I just think to finish up and then let Coach kind of go. But I think that right there changed the outlook on huddle focus in our district. I think before that it was kind of a sell of, to go to our activities office, to maybe even go to our central office and say, hey, this would be something that would be valuable to football and soccer, or inside to the basketball and volleyball. But because of what COVID has kind of forced us into, we're starting to reevaluate what the post-pandemic looks like. And we kind of feel like we've set a precedent for what we can do. I think there's some questions out there still in terms of what that looks like going forward. But for a 4:00 freshman game where parents have never, parents that work till 5 or 6 o'clock at night can't get there. I know some schools are like, oh, well, we just play those games at 6 o'clock then. But in what we've done, we've played those games earlier. And so now all of a sudden that live stream for an underclassmen game may even be more important than live streaming a Friday night game once we're back to normal and we're getting those fans in the seats, which we want. We don't have that luxury at underclassmen games. And so it really is going to change the way that we look at promoting our underclassmen games in all sports across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, even when we have fans back in the stands, right? Like out of town grandma, or, brother or whatever it is. So that was super great example. Jonathan, Coach Coates, you mentioned scoreboard earlier. I want to give you a chance to talk about live streaming, but before I forget to, obviously one of the cool parts of Huddle Focus is we get that scoreboard shot, kind of picture in picture in the bottom left corner of the screen. It sounds like you guys have been recording scoreboard feeds in the past. Talk to me about how valuable that is to you all and what kind of you use that for.
Well, it gives you a different sense of the tempo of the game, how much time has elapsed between plays, because you don't really get that when you're just clipping and filming normal. And then it also kind of gives you a better indication of when it's a certain situation, a 4-minute, 2-minute, gives you a little bit more context. And I think that's really important. As far as even scouting, it can kind of help you out as well to see how certain defensive coordinators call, when it's a 2-minute drill versus, whatever, because you don't really know, because I know in Texas, the scoreboard only really gets shot after an extra point or a field goal. And so that's the only time you really know how much time is left on the clock in a quarter or whatever. So it's huge for us. I know in the few games that we've done, and even the practices and things we've done, just being able to see that is great.
Nice. Yeah. One of the things I love about it too, right, is these football scoreboards have a lot more information on them a lot of times than a basketball scoreboard, right? You're getting down, distance, yard line, even in some cases, depending on the scoreboard. So that's pretty powerful to see as you're kind of just scaling.
Yeah, it starts to match the kind of NFL college, way they film games. And so you get a really good indication prior to the play of the whole situation.
Nice. Awesome.
And I think to kind of add to that, I think the digital scoreboards that are starting to show up in our high school stadiums are just adding to that. As opposed, you saw our scoreboard, we're still dealing with kind of the lower model, but we're working that direction. But just in our gym where we do have those screens, it's a really cool aspect for those parents that are watching on the live stream to see and be a part of. And the other thing too is, and I know Coach mentioned, we try to do we tag a game during our football games. We do the live tag. But again, just like everything else, if there's a glitch, someone's got to go back and fix that. And having that scoreboard right down there in the bottom corner, that makes that job way easier than it is. Okay, I think he's on the 6-yard line. And, even as much as Hudl's advanced of trying to do some of it itself, as you kind of tabulate through that, if you can see that scoreboard in front of you, that cuts that job down to nothing.
Yeah, it's a great gut check. Even for our assist analysts, right? We're always looking for ways to get more accurate and fast as for our assist teams, and it's it's going to be valuable in that way too. Tying it back to live streaming, also I've seen some pretty cool digital scoreboards that will show replays on them, or even advertisements, right? And I think Nolan, you and I were texting back and forth about that, right? Where there's some potential cool ways to get the community involved and potentially get a kickback for the athletic department too, which we all know is always important. So awesome. Coach Coates, I didn't give you quite the chance to answer anything about live stream. You want to add anything? You don't have to. Obviously.
Well, I know for us here in Texas, I mean, we have been streaming just occasional playoff games. And I know some of the bigger schools have some kind of contracts with local television networks. And so they're able to have their games on TV. Now, this year, obviously with the pandemic, is, sports broadcasting at the high school level has taken a quantum leap. And we're now, we contracted with a group prior to getting the Hudl Focus. And so they're live streaming every game that we have: football, volleyball, boys, girls, basketball, lacrosse, everything. And so had we, had the focus earlier, it would have been in, different discussions in terms of whether we wanted to just use a focus and then involve our, high school, film department in some, form or fashion. I know it's one of our conversations that we're having going forward to deciding whether we're going to have a contract with those guys in the following year.
Nice. Awesome.
Yep.
I want to loop us back around to video quality for a second. We talked about kind of the value of the angle of video, right? So that means both like the zoom, right? Like we're talking about that wide versus tight and kind of finding the right middle ground there with focus. Then obviously we talked about following the action and how that's incredibly valuable. You don't want to be missing plays because of distracted student managers or filmers. Talk to me a little bit about both of your experiences with just the kind of color and clarity of what you've seen from Hudl Focus and how that compares to, the cameras that you've been using and what you expect from that and, how we can meet that.
I'll go. Like we use just about the highest level of camera that you can. I mean, they're probably $3,000 cameras. There is not much difference between what we're using for the wide shot and then the Hudl Focus camera. Not very much at all. And I think, with the indoor focus gaining popularity, we've actually become or have been able to trade video, or if we're going to go play on the road in this pandemic and not take filmers because the school will film the game and send it to us. I see that carrying over a little bit into football, perhaps, and we can get now a better quality of trade in terms of when you're scouting or when you're doing your film trade with a future opponent.
Nice. What about you, Nolan?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, before this year, we were actually working with the sideline model that used the iPad, and so I know, for us, it was more efficient. It was more reliable. Austin, you and I have been working with the Hudl Focus or the Hudl sideline for a long time. So we kind of found that sweet spot where we felt comfortable and weren't quite ready to go. So I knew that we would be coaches in our conference, and I'm sure there's some of them listening that they're like, Blue Springs probably has the worst sideline film of the whole conference because we were filming with an iPad. But for us, it got us what we needed and it was the most reliable. So this year we upgraded with our sideline kit, but then obviously the focus, and again, using a much better, we were just kind of using like a Sony Handycam. And so the focus clearly was heads and shoulders above what we were using there. So, the other thing that I was kind of thinking as Coach was talking is, our conference is awesome. We're in a conference pool. We're to the point where all our conference schools, we trade the film in the pool and we trade the basic data, whether you use Hudl Assist or you do it yourself. And so we just trade through that. And so, with the Hudl Focus, the more schools that are able to kind of go that direction, you don't have the one school that, okay, well, I know when I grab their film, it's going to be a little bit different quality. Now we have some schools that use really, like Coach said, high-tech cameras and video crews and things like that. But we also run into some schools where that's not as important. So the more focused cameras that are a part of our conference, again, the less manpower we need, and just the gamesmanship of the whole situation is everybody's kind of getting a nice clean view, just like we're all sharing the same data and those types of things. I think you and I talked, our next step is let's have that focus camera sent straight to the conference pool.
So that's a great segue, Coach. I was about to talk about that. I'll pause here too. I'm going to throw something on you guys. This is a little bit of and Brendan, we can keep this in or we can cut it out, but this is a little bit of a user interview shift, but then I hope we get some good content for the actual panel that we're doing. So we've talked about this a little bit, Nolan. I think maybe Jonathan, we've talked about this too, but our vision for Focus, right, is to you just mentioned it, right, Nolan, democratize filming, create an even playing field, and create great video so that can be out of your guys' way and you can coach. One of the visions, or a part of that vision, is to kind of create this focused network of cameras where, if I am a Focus customer, if I'm a Hudl customer and I have a Focus subscription, anywhere I play a game that also has a Focus camera, I get that video immediately in my library after the game. I don't even have to go get it from the league exchange, right? It just shows up in my library. Again, game video between, two teams who both have Focus cameras at their stadiums. Talk to me about, one, how that would make you feel, and then two, what that would kind of do for your workflows.
Oh, I think my first thought is that'd be awesome, because I think in doing a lot of questions, kind of preparing for this with your team, we've talked about, again, the same kind of questions. How's that enhance your workflow? How does that change what you do on a Friday night? But my answers were always like, well, it changes what my home schedule looks like, but it doesn't change what my away schedule looks like, because where I have a Focus camera here, that's one less manager I need, but I'm going to need that manager at the next away game because we don't have that luxury. So as soon as you start networking those Focus, I've seen it in basketball this year. There's a lot of schools, if they didn't have Hudl Focus before the season started, they do now, for the live streaming and again, the lack of allowing people into the gym to even be, even basketball managers that they want filming, they're not allowed to be in the gym. So having that network would take my fear of, okay, this is great for home games, but what am I going to do about away games? So then, like I said, the next step is, okay, that's great. Where's my sideline going to hook into? And you answer that question too. And now you've actually probably increased our efficiency at away games to eclipse our efficiency at home games.
Yeah. And that's the goal, right? That's the vision that we're marching towards, is, not having to bring that equipment with you, or at the very least having to bring minimal equipment with you, for sideline, and you hook into that away camera or something like that. How about you, Coach Coates? Talk to me about how you feel about that and how that would impact your workflow.
That would be great. Just as Nolan said, I know for us, we just finished our basketball season, and everybody we played had a Focus camera. And so it would have made a whole lot of sense for us not to have to bring a kid and equipment and lug all that stuff on the bus, and just traded, film, or just got the film because of that. And it's just fair play. In terms of, in football, it would be even better, because that's just, thousands of dollars of equipment. Now I don't have to take to the game. I don't have to, worry about whether we're going to miss something, we're going to have any kind of, issue as far as that. And it's just fairness across the league. We're not trying to disguise anything, but there are teams that will trim each play all the way to the snap. And so you don't get a whole lot of, perhaps signals, or you don't see a substitution, or you don't see, things that would, affect what we would do defensively there. And so I think that would be a great idea. I hope we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, that's where we're headed, and we're experimenting with those workflows this spring, and hope to have some of those workflows ready for this fall. And you know, when you
just real quick, another point, like
Yeah,
we had already decided in our district that the home team films sub-varsity games. And so if a team's coming to our place to play A, B, C, you know, whatever level of football it is, that they're not going to send a filmer. They're relying on us. And the same thing goes when we go to somebody else's place. And you know, the quality of film we're getting versus the quality of film we're being sent by the other teams is a lot different. And obviously we would like that to be, you know, nice and fair.
yeah, that go ahead, Nolan.
Oh, and yeah, and to piggyback on that, I think again, you know, some of the conversations we've had earlier is, you know, are you willing to just rely on the focus? And this year, with it being a beta test, we didn't rely on it, so we put our camera up next to it. But you're still going to get that same kind of idea when you tell a head coach, hey, we don't have to take a camera because we're going to get their film in return. The question is, well, what if their film's not as good as our film? What if their managers aren't as good as our managers? If we know they have a Hudl focus, we know exactly what we're going to get, because it's going to be the exact same view. It's going to be we know how it's going to work. And the other thing is, we talked about this way at the beginning, but I think one of the most embarrassing things, being kind of in charge of technology and stuff, is not even the safeties getting cut out of the film, but the manager clicking record after the ball's already been snapped. So then you have to try to tell the coach that you're sending that film to, I promise you that wasn't done purposely, or something along those lines. So again, knowing, it's one thing that a team can agree, and that's why we don't mind trading underclassmen films either, or filming for underclassmen games. But again, you never know the quality of film you're going to get, because you got different cameras, you've got different people that are filming, you've got the human element. But when it's a focused camera, it's a guarantee of what you're going to get, because you get the same thing on your end.
Yeah, that consistency of the video you're capturing is just a major value prop. And then the other way I've thought about it, right, is you all are paying Hudl for these services. And if you think about it, you're paying for, obviously practice is a huge value, which we can talk about here in a second. We haven't really touched on practice capture, but focus can capture practice. And I know Coach Coates, you did that quite a bit this fall. But ultimately you have, 4 or 5 home games a year. You have sub-varsity as well that kind of adds some value there. But then being able to essentially double that with the Focus Network and get all those away games is a huge value for our customers. So really good stuff there. Before we talk about practice, Nolan, I want to quickly hit on sideline, and this one will be for you. Again, Texas Rules Committee, if you're listening. Yeah, we'd love to talk. Obviously you all have been sideline customers forever. You've had your fair share of frustrations with it. You've had it be really valuable for your program as well. Our vision for Focus is that ultimately that it replaces that, streaming kit, the little black box and handy cam in the sideline. For now, there will still be some sort of sideline kit in that press box with you to facilitate the video getting sent, to the viewing devices on the sideline. But talk to me about what having kind of a reliable capture source in the press box is going to do for your game day workflows with sideline.
Well, I mean, I think if anything we have to set up on a Friday night, sideline is the one that we're going to have issues with. And not necessarily that it's a bad product, but there's so many little intricacies that could go wrong, even to the point where a cord gets half unplugged. So no one realizes it's unplugged, but it's unplugged enough that something's not working. We've definitely been a lot more successful with it as the years have gone on. And I know, I think you either love it or you hate it. And I said, we've had a very good run with it. But yeah, I think once you take away to me, you start taking away some extra Wi-Fi signals that are roaming around. I think we struggle with our headphones a lot, no matter what companies we work with and stuff. And the things we're told that, even though we can work around them in some case, we're talking about with the number of cell phones sitting in the bleachers and the cell towers that are just outside properties of these schools and stuff, it's something that's never going to get better. So if, you're able to take out some of that, possible issue that could occur, and know that, that Hudl Focus is wired in, it's sending right to your sideline kit, and you kind of, it's almost more guaranteed than it is now. And I'm, again, speaking that Hudl sideline for us has been good. But just that guarantee of we know in the heat of the moment, it's going to be there when we need it. Then, like I said, that just leads into the question of that's great for the 4 home games we're going to play this year, but we've got those 5 away games that then all of a sudden, it's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good perspective. The way, I think about it is, yeah, you're right. Like sideline, there's a lot of moving pieces, right? To create that product, when we had to, kind of bring together a lot of individual pieces to create the network, to create the video encoding, to send it to the iOS devices. And each of those pieces has risk of, getting unplugged, getting crimped by the window, right? Dropping it off the bus and it, and something dings around inside of it. And as focus, comes into the press box and then, eventually into the end zone down the line, the more we can reduce those moving parts and provide really reliable, permanent live review in those situations is going to be a game changer for our coaches. So it's a great call out. Let's hit on practice. And then I want to make sure I give you two some time to ask me any burning questions that you have on your mind. So talk to me about, I'll start with you, Coach Coates. Talk to me about your practice workflow and how you used Hudl Focus this fall and how you see it evolving for you in the future.
Sure. So we typically toward the end of the season, when it starts to get dark a little quicker, we transition to our main game stadium. And so that's where the Hudl Focus camera was obviously mounted. And, we practice on the turf, but then you also have, a lot of guys packed into one small space. And, if you're filming from the press box, you need multiple cameras to get, all the things that are going on in each end. Well, the Hudl Focus has the lens that covers the right half, has a lens that covers the left half, and then has obviously the action. And so we would be able to focus our defensive side or film our defensive side, film our offensive side, doing all the, the drill work, everything that was going on there. And then once we came together or did any kind of team situation, then we would have the action camera be able to follow that. That was huge for us. And then we had we typically before school will do special teams. And the same thing applies. We're getting the punt returners down here, and we're getting the PAT team down here. And then when we come together for kickoff, we're seeing the full field. And so that's been tremendous for us because we can't get all those views without multiple cameras. And we just didn't have the manpower this year because of COVID. But I don't know that we ever want to go back, because it's just too easy and I can just start and stop it with my phone. And that's great.
Nice. That's awesome. What about you, Nolan?
We didn't do much with the Focus this year in practice. Honestly, when we had it last year, because we had the really rough version of it that I know you guys were using. I think at that time we had talked about that it really only had 2 views. It had the panoramic and it had the tactical. And so I kind of just lost track of the halves of the field. And I knew that the indoor one had that. And so really never went back and even peeked at that. But kind of the way we do our practice filming is we have our same managers, same video crew that shows up on Friday night, is around during the week. And we just basically give them a practice schedule and we say, okay, and even though like Coach says, we have our offensive side and our defensive side and they're going simultaneously. And the time is just increments up on the scoreboard. So everybody adjusts, accordingly, but then we can say, okay, period 5 and 6, you're filming this zone, period 7 and 8, you're filming this zone. We film everything for practice on iPads just because every video student member has their own iPad and like, okay, you got the blue one, you got the pink one. And so they do a really good job at keeping track of all that stuff. From there, the upload's easy because they just hit the button and it sends it right into our folder. So we've really been pretty efficient with there. I think going back and looking more along the lines of how to use the Focus in the future, kind of like Coach says, is setting those timing increments. I'd love to set it before the practice starts because I think before practice starts, I know when things are going to happen. I think sometimes there's a glitch there because as much as we all want to stay on our scoreboard for practice, things start to drift every now and then. So, not knowing, because if I set it for every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes works great until all of a sudden we're 3 or 4 minutes off down, 10 periods in. And so now things are cutting off or things like that. But I think there's definitely things in the future, maybe being able to see the scoreboard there can be something, infective of that 0 causes it to timestamp or something like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really good examples. I want to give a kind of peek behind the curtain for folks watching to understand what we're talking about. So I'm going to share my screen one more time here and make sure you see a football field. Can somebody say yes? I can't see you guys.
yes.
Okay, great. So this is what Coach Coates was talking about, where this is a practice video from one of our beta testers. This is the kind of the smart camera tracking. There's a lot of players on the field, so it kind of freaks out, right? It doesn't know exactly where to go because this doesn't look like traditional 11-on-11 football. So we have these right and left angles where you can essentially focus in on what's happening. So as Coates was talking, you could have your defense on the right side of the field running drills, and then really quickly you can switch over and say, okay, at this timestamp, I want to, come over here and check out the left side of the field where our offense is working or special teams. So that's what we're talking about here and kind of the vision where we're headed. So obviously practice capture, there's, not always a priority for all teams. It is for some teams, but we're hopeful that focus is going to, again, make that easier, break down barriers and enable more teams to capture practice. So
we actually used it. We had a coach get COVID, and we had to contact trace everybody that was around him. And he was one of the scout team coaches. And so we had to locate all the guys that were anywhere near him for that period of time.
Yeah, I've heard a handful of those stories from both in the indoor and outdoor focus. And my prayer is that is not something that focus is going to be useful for this fall, because we won't need to do it anymore. But, the eye in the sky is there if there are unique needs. Awesome, guys. Really great discussion. Really valuable. Let's flip the tables here a little bit. We got a couple minutes. What are your kind of burning questions, or what do you think coaches' burning questions might be out there that are watching?
Well, I think, just what's next? I mean, like what's, how is it evolving? And then what's the next step even after the outdoor focus?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So obviously we're ultra focused as a team on making sure that, what we're, talking about this week at Hudl Blitz is, sharp, ready for prime time and ready to deliver a ton of value this fall. So we have a spring beta happening right now, actually, with, hundreds of high schools out across the country who are playing spring football due to COVID. So actually capturing games, testing the sideline integration that we talked about, testing the automatic clipping algorithm so that our coaches don't have to, use OVE after the game or stand there and clip during the game, continuing to iterate on live streaming features. Once we're really confident in all that and continue to build, I think where I see us heading is a couple different things. Capturing more content through the Hudl Focus ecosystem, right? So that could look like 2 angles from the same focus camera on the press box, right? You were talking about this earlier, Coates, where the tight and the wide angle. Right now we're getting a pretty good, wide angle. Maybe we zoom in and follow the ball more of a traditional tight angle that's valuable for your running backs and your O-line coaches. Maybe we provide even a more, kind of all wide 22 safety net video angle. And ultimately we're going to be looking at in-zone capture in the future. No timelines there, no commitment or anything like that, but we know that's an important part of the workflow for, thousands of teams across the country. So that would be like the number one area, or 1A, we'll call it. 1B is continuing to save coaches time, right? For sideline, for example, Nolan, we'll still have somebody pressing start and stop in the sideline app when that focus video is coming in this fall. What does it look like to take that clipping, algorithm that happens automatically and actually bring that to the, to game time live so that you don't even have to have somebody running that recording iPad? What are the other things that we can do to essentially save time, get all these kind of manual steps out of our coaches' way and get them to coaching and get them to the moments that matter faster. So those are the kind of 2 core tenets. Obviously, if you've been watching Hudl Blitz, we're also working on kind of the next iteration of the core Hudl experience for football teams. And we're super excited about that. And we're going to be continuing to keep our foot on the gas on everything from capture to analysis and everything in between for football teams. So, we're going to keep doubling down on football coaches because that's our lifeblood at Hudl. So, but great question.
And I think you and I have kind of talked about this previously. Do you have any ideas moving forward? Because I think the one issue that we didn't run into, but we heard stories, is when something happens and the focus isn't doing what it's supposed to somehow override that. Like I think we talked about penalty kicks on soccer games and things like that, where the focus gets confused and watches the group of kids standing at midfield instead of the actual kick going on.
Yeah, great question. I think there's two things there to think about that we're thinking about actively as we build this product and continue to build it. One is like, how can we find those areas and stamp them out as quickly as possible and make continue to improve the smart tracking algorithms that create the tactical view at those wide angles that we were talking about. Getting that feedback from coaches constantly across sports, football, soccer, basketball, to continue to improve that. The other approach that we're thinking through and are going to be working really closely with the coaches in the spring is, what are the tools we can provide coaches, as you're kind of alluding to here, Nolan? What are the tools we can provide coaches to fix the 1 in 100 mistake, right? To make sure that they're not out of that video. So that's definitely on our horizon and on the front of our minds, ensuring both improving, again, making that mistake happen much less common continually over time, but then also making sure we kind of have safety measures in place, or ability to kind of go back and fix that if something does happen. But good question.
We just had a once in a generation winter storm here in Texas.
Yeah.
And I mean, it has snowed, I think, once in my lifetime here in Austin. And I was sitting at home playing with my kids, and I put the Focus app on and looked at what the camera saw at the outdoor and saw all the snow. How did you build the thing so that it could withstand all the heat and the wind and the rain and the snow?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, that was one of the, paramount challenges of taking the indoor camera and, serving our football coaches and soccer coaches in these stadiums and fields. It's been a 2-year kind of journey for us, and lots of iterations and testing. It started with us taking prototypes and going into the bathroom at Hudl headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska, and turning on the shower and seeing, where the leaks were happening, all the way to, partnering with these, kind of world-class supply chain partners and test facilities where the thing, the camera that we're about to, go out and produce thousands of is getting put in a chamber that has jets coming at it from all kind of different angles. So it's really, really been a cool process for me as somebody who's, worked primarily on internet software, right? Hudl.com, to be a part of this hardware experience. You talked about the storm in Texas. Obviously that hit us in Lincoln as well. We just did a field test with one of our spring beta cameras, and it was negative 24 degrees outside. And the field was covered in snow, so you couldn't see much, but it was still working and still capturing, which is really, really incredible and really, really awesome to see. So, 120 degrees to negative 20 degrees, that thing is gonna stay in there. Obviously, rain is another big challenge. Obviously, games get played in the rain sometimes, so making sure that the lenses kind of defog themselves and, have some, resistant material that makes the water go, drip down the lenses faster. These are the types of things that our team was thinking about along the way. So, but we're really excited and really proud of how far that camera's come.
So the new one that you're sending me here in the next week, I'm not gonna have to crawl up there and duct tape the port shut.
That's right. Nolan has been through the ringer. He's Blue Springs is a great partner school and tests a bunch of stuff early. Obviously, Coach Coates and Lake Travis is as well. But yeah, we're about ready to send Nolan here one of kind of the final versions to get installed there and start testing some sideline integration with him. So we're excited about that. Awesome.
Go
ahead.
Like Brendan has something at the end to ask.
Yeah, what do you got,
I was
Brendan?
taking his notes over there.
What do I get? No, this is, 120 to I didn't realize I got negative 24. in Lincoln. We got a little bit of a dusting here in Boston, but that just
Yeah.
sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it was. There was a good 2 weeks where it didn't get above 0 in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was brutal.
Yeah. Sounds like it was colder in Lincoln than on Mars for a couple nights.
It was
actually.
50 degrees yesterday here, though, so I took a nice.
Yeah, it's cleaned up nice.
Yeah,
But yeah, guys, we're coming up on a couple minutes left here. I wanted to give any further shout outs. Obviously, this has been awesome conversation and some great insight into how this is what this does and how it came about. Obviously, yeah, you guys in the audience have any questions, want to learn more, plenty of opportunities to do that the rest of the week here. I wanted to kick it over to you guys, how people can keep in touch with you, keep the conversation going. Austin, Nolan, Coates, etc.
Yeah.
How can people keep in touch with you?
Yeah, for me, right, you can pretty much find me anywhere on our Huddle communication channels. It's austin@Hudl.com, so it's easy to remember. If you ever have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm happy to chat about Focus or any of our other American football products. Obviously, our support team is world-class, and we'll be there as well. And we'll be sharing lots more information throughout the spring and summer as we get closer to the football season.
I think on my place, I mean, I can ramble off my email address, but with my last name, you guys might be better just printing it right below wherever this screen
put it
is
across the screen.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, wherever you want to put it. But yeah, people are welcome to email me, reach out to me for feedback or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, they can go to laketravisfootball.com, coaches, and there's all contact information there. Also, I'm at Coach Coates on Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter handle.
Twitter.
I always remember Nolan's last name because you said rhymes with hot gravy. So it's a good rubric to live by. I want to thank you guys for all being here. This is fantastic. And we will see you guys the rest of the week.
Yep. Thanks, y'all. See ya.
Thanks, guys.